All right, everybody, let's talk about paper mache again. I have in front of me a letter sculpture that is ready to be paper mache. You can see I've used it for a demo before, so I have already started to put the paper strips and glue on it. When you get to the point where you think that you are ready to start doing the next step, which is adding the strips, you have to come up to me and let me know and let me see your work. You can see I have here the little opening that was in the last video on the letter N. You can see how it's all closed up. So you want to make sure that you put these thin strips on the sides of your letter or whatever shape that you are doing. All right, so to get started with the gluing process, the first thing you need is a messy paper. You're gonna find this in the paper flat files over by the cutting board, and just make sure you grab a piece that's big enough for your sculpture. In the paper mache cabinet, you're gonna find a bucket that says paper mache glue. It's been refilled many times. This is where the glue is. When we run out, you gotta let me know if there's only a little bit left. And you have to carefully pour that paper mache glue into a little black tray. You're gonna find these black trays in the paper mache cabinet as well. Now for the demo, I just poured a little bit. You only wanna pour just about an inch. You don't really need that much in one class period. In the paper mache cabinet, you're also gonna find a container that has pre-cut newspaper strips and another one that has newsprint. These ones have nothing on them. What I like to do is one layer of the newspaper and then the top layer with the newsprint. And the reason for that is 2 layers makes it nice and strong. And the top layer, it's really nice if there's nothing on it. So when you're painting, you don't run the risk of having the words or anything show through the paint. Because if that happens, then you have to do multiple layers of paint. Whereas if it's just plain newsprint, usually the coverage is good enough and you won't have to do so many layers. To get the glue onto your strips and onto your sculpture, I like to just take one strip at a time, and I'm going to start with my newspaper strip. I want to dip it on both sides, and I do something called squeegeeing, where I take my 2 fingers and I really remove most of the glue off, and I wipe it on the side of the container so I don't end up with a handful of glue. For this sculpture, whenever you have gaps, the best place to start with paper macheing is to cover these gaps. So I say it's almost like a Band-Aid. So I'm gonna put the strips over the gap, right? So normally you would see the openings like you see here. I wanna cover those. I wanna unify my sculpture. So I am just gonna smooth out that glue. Once you do one layer of the newspaper, you can go ahead and go with the newsprint. And same thing, get the glue on both sides, squeegee the extra glue off, wipe it off so you don't have glue everywhere, and then you can do a layer of the newsprint on top. All right, this is a messy process. You are gonna need a lot of cleanup time. Any extra glue that you have inside your tray, I just take the container, open it, and I scoop it out with my hand, dump it back into the container so someone else can use it, and then obviously go wash your hands. Any newspaper strips that are unused, again, you're gonna wanna put them back in the containers. You gotta be really careful not to drip glue all over your newspaper strips. So doing one at a time and just making sure the strips are nowhere in the dripping area. You really shouldn't be dripping too much if you're squeegeeing and wiping your hand off, so that will minimize a lot of the drips. These sculptures go on right next to the drying rack. There's a black shelf, and you can leave them to dry somewhere on the black shelf at the end of the period. All right, good luck.